Alright, hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about dungeons. First thing I want to discuss is how they're going to be accessed. The main thing here is I feel like new players should actually be not allowed to enter the dungeon. You guys know what I mean. Like, implement a minimum of about 25 combat. As you can see here, the end is with level 12, which does not really match up to what we would expect because the gear level in the end is really good. Like, it's definitely like a level 20 range combat, but instead they put it on a 12. I'd like to see dungeons, require a minimum of 25, gain access so you don't see it littered with noobs and all this other thing, making your experience bad. Because it could be a DPS race to get through and other things, and having like someone who not do anything on your team is not beneficial at all. And the next thing is they're talking about how it being infinite content. So it might be similar to how dragons are ran. So you have to farm a currency to enter a dungeon, which is probably like a key or something. How we are going to probably end up farming that is questionable. It could either be they have maybe like a zone of mobs or something. But I mean, since they only talk about having one dungeon on release, there could actually not be a fee to enter. But it really depends on how they want to push this out. And if there's even like a area of mobs before you can even go into the dungeon area where you would farm a key, for example. Because in Windcraft, I remember reading the first dungeon, like a mob can spawn, give you your key so you enter the first dungeon. So, and a lot of comparisons here are going to be probably drawn from Windcraft because they already have like a dungeon system. But I'd like to see Skyblock improve on that. Alright, let's talk about difficulty right now. So, as we already talked about, level 25 combat, so that's decently up there. Like, that's going to take people a while to get. I feel like they're not going to add a limitation to it since, like, gotta get all those new people in the new content. But it should be at least that high so they can have difficult mobs. As you guys can know, the end is really hard. But the highest health enemy there has only 13k life, which is so easy to one-shot with your sword. One of the new mobs they recently added, the Snowy, or I don't believe he's the Snow Yeti. He has like 300k life. He's a fishing mob. That's like so much higher than like everything else in the game. It's insane. We need more mobs like him in the dungeon. Because without that kind of difficulty there to, make players improve the gear, they're like, wow, this is so boring. I'm one-shotting everything. And that's what literally the end feels like. Everyone just zooms around, killing everything. And that's probably going to happen in the dungeon, but, at least make it difficult in a way. Like, you should be fearing for your life from these mobs. Like, when the end first came out, it was scary. Like, those mobs hit you like a truck in full divers. Like, that was terrifying. It's like, oh man, I gotta be really careful. I'm gonna die to these things. And now it's like, oh look, I'm taking like 10 Endermen and 5 archers, and you're not even close to dying. Just after time, your gear improves and everything becomes easier, but there still should be, some kind of thing to push you going harder. Hey, look, there's an emperor over there. And besides that, the way they can improve this, even if they don't make mobs super, strong, just add more of them. More mobs means more potential drops, more potential risk at death if they're really strong, and just a lot more fun. People like it when there's more mobs around to kill, because especially if you shoot them with your bow, you just hear like the constant dings as your arrow flies around, or just keep swiping them, getting your life steal, getting your health back up. Like, there's a lot of fun things you do with lots of mobs, right? And to me, that's like really enjoyable. Again, we draw another comparison from Windcraft. The mob density is pretty good. You can even use items to boost the mob density in an area, so it's even more like enjoyable killing off the mobs that are there. I feel like if Skyblock literally just took systems from Windcraft and put it in Skyblock, it would be so good. Like, so good. I really wish they'd do that, but I mean, that's just stealing, I guess, in a way. Alright, on the next bit. Drops and bosses. So as we know, we have the current Slayer drops. They are really really bad. Like, really bad. Like, mosquito bow. Right here. Garbage. Complete garbage. So expensive. Maybe, like, it could do better in, like, very few scenarios. Pointless. Reaper Scythe. They nerfed it really hard. It should be as strong as Midas, but I understand why it's not because of the ability. But it's still gonna make it strong. And we got the Overflux. Overflux is good, so I'm not gonna, complain about that. Could be better though. Drawston dungeons, depending on the difficulty, they should be really good. Like there definitely needs to be an upscale of, better items. They've released a bunch of new items since the Slayer update, but they are refusing to add new ones that are, make the game power like scale up. So they can't exactly raise the mob level, yet they're not raising the gear level. Because if we don't have stronger gear, we can't deal with stronger mobs. But our current gear level is good to deal with probably... Like, we have the Slayer mobs, they have like a few mil health. Like, mobs with a few mil health probably aren't going to be much of an issue, depending on how hard they hit. Especially if they ramp up the gear level to where we can one-shot mobs with millions of health. And then we're starting with millions, like 5, 10, 20 million health as like a bare standard. Probably even higher than that if we're hitting millions a hit. That's kind of something cool to think about. And the fact that we could have new drops. And one of the things I mentioned about drops is they renamed talismans to accessories, right? One of the main things about dungeons is in these other games I played, they drop accessories. So what I think is they made this change because dungeons is going to drop some new cool accessories. This is the main focus. Potentially with some new legendary equipment as well. Potentially legendary armor, a sword, maybe a bow. Whether they make it better than what we have, I would hope so. If not, then it's going to be like, why are they wasting time investing in dungeons when we're not getting better gear? Just kind of, it's just questionable. It really depends on, what they decide to put in. I really hope they, after those time they put in, they make it really good. This is just the last tidbit here. I mention this almost every time we talk about dungeons, but this update has to be really good. For you guys that made this far in the video, like, you guys know, if you see my streams at all, let's sit there and be like, man, dungeons better be good or people are going to quit. Because people are going to quit. We've waited so long for any kind of update, a large scale update, not Slayer level. Slayer level is like a mini update. For a nice large update to give us something to do. They have to make it at least take time to do. That is the final thing. It took 3 days to beat the end update. It took me 2 weeks to beat the fishing update. That's wrong. The end update should take me much longer. It could have been, yes, I was really lucky, so I beat the end update in 3 days. But they should not allow players to buy their way through the update. As in, no tradable stuff for the most part, beside the gear that drops. Potentially. Especially if they use key to access. Very few items should be tradable. Because then you have people buying their way through and it ruins the content. Like, I had to buy all my Slayer items. And understandable if they're buyable, if they're crazy RNG drops. But I really think they need to stay away from RNG and make it so maybe I do like 100 dungeon runs for this thing. You can do 1,000 dungeon runs for this other thing, right? And then you have rewards along the way, which could be really, rewarding. Because you want to get all this good stuff. Be like, hey, if I complete the dungeon this many times, takes like 5 minutes per run, right? And I can get this cool new talisman that boosts my crit damage or gives me a strength buff when I kill an enemy. Like, that could be a new accessory, right? Be like, this purple talisman, or they're called accessories now, that gives me like 15 strength whenever I defeat a mob for 8 seconds or something. That could be, you get that as a reward for like 300 dungeon runs, for example. Maybe on your 500th dungeon run, you get this legendary sword. Meanwhile, you have drops that are just hanging around from potentially the mobs inside the dungeon, and also from the bosses, because bosses with no potential for reward are whack. And you want to feel good sometimes when you finally get that rare drop, I don't want to be Slayer where, it feels kind of miserable because you're investing money every time and it can be pretty slow. Dungeons needs to be really good. And I know lots of people believe that. And I want it to be really good because I love this game. And if Dungeons is good, we're gonna get more content. We got the Abyss Lands coming up afterwards. Can't wait to see both of them. I really hope they're both good though. And that's kind of all we really got to say. Thank you guys. If you guys tuned in for the whole, discussion, I really appreciate it. If you guys made this long, maybe drop a sub. I will catch you guys later. Bye.